In this session, we will study about the intrinsic muscles of the hand. These are short muscles and they are responsible for the skilled and the fine movements of the hand. There are total 20 muscles in the intrinsic muscles of the hand, and they can be conveniently classified into three group of muscles. There are thinner group of muscles which are related to the movement of the thumb. Then second group of muscle, it is the hypothenor group of muscles which is related to the movement of the little finger. And the last group, it is the central group of muscles which is present between the thinner and the hypothenor group. And this group includes the interossei and the lumbrical muscles. There are total 4 muscles in the thinner group, 4 in the hypothenor group, and 12 muscles in the central group, making a total of 20 group muscles in the hand. First, about the thinner group of muscles. These group of muscles, they are related to the movements of the thumb, and the muscles which are included in this group, we have the abductor pollicis brevis, flexor pollicis brevis, opponens pollicis, and the fourth muscle which is included, it is the adductor pollicis. We are writing this muscle separately because the first three muscles, they are present on the lateral side of the thumb, and they will be forming the prominence on the base of the thumb that is named as the thinner eminence. While the adductor pollicis muscle, it will be present on the medial side of the thumb, and this will not be included in the thinner eminence. Moreover, this is the only muscle of the thumb which will be supplied by the ulnar nerve. Rest all the muscles, they will be supplied by the median nerve. Now the name of the muscles of the thumb, it will include the word pollicis. The word pollex, it means the thumb. And since these are short muscles, so they are named as the brevis. The word brevis will be only used when we have the two muscles which are having the same function, and one is long, that will be named as the longus. For example, we will have the abductor pollicis longus muscle, and the short muscle having the same function, it will be named as the abductor pollicis brevis. So when we use the word longus, that means it will also have a short counterpart, that is the brevis. So the muscles in the thinner group, they are the abductor pollicis brevis, flexor pollicis brevis, opponens pollicis, and the adductor pollicis muscle. The muscles in the hypothenor group, they will be related to the movement of the little finger. And name of these muscles, they will be similar to the muscles of the thinner group, when the word pollicis will be now replaced by the digiti minimi, which means the little finger. And muscles in this group, they are the abductor digiti minimi, flexor digiti minimi, and opponens digiti minimi. And the fourth muscle of this group, it is named as the palmaris brevis. Now this muscle, it is described separately as the above three muscles. They will be responsible for the movement of the little finger, and they will be forming the prominence on the medial side of the palm, that is the hypothenor eminence. While the palmaris brevis, it is a very short muscle present on the ulnar side of the palm, and its long counterpart, it is named as the palmaris longus. So these are the muscles in the thinner and the hypothenor group. While the muscles in the central group, we have the interossei and the lumbrical muscles. And in the interossei, we have the 4 palmar interossei and the 4 dorsal interossei muscles. And in the lumbrical group, we have the 4 lumbrical muscles. So, thus making the total 12 muscles in the central group. So these are the total 20 muscles of the hand, 4 in the thinner group, which are named as the pollicis, and small muscles brevis. So abductor pollicis brevis, flexor pollicis brevis, and opponens pollicis, and the fourth muscle, adductor pollicis. While in the hypothenor group, the muscles they will be named with the word digiti minimi. So we will have the abductor, flexor and opponens digiti minimi, and fourth will be the palmaris brevis. And in the central group, we have named the muscle as either introiti or the lumbrical muscles. Now, another important feature of the intrinsic muscles, it is that out of these 20 muscles, the 15 muscles in the hand, they will be supplied by the ulnar nerve, while the 5 muscles of the hand, they will receive their nerve supply from the median nerve. And these 5 muscles, they are abductor pollicis brevis, flexor pollicis brevis, opponens pollicis, and the two lumbrical muscles, which are first and second lumbrical. So the three muscles of the thumb and two lumbrical muscles, they will receive their nerve supply from the median nerve. Rest all the muscles, they will be supplied by the ulnar nerve. And the ulnar nerve, it divides into two branches in the hand. One is the superficial branch and another is deep branch. The superficial branch of the ulnar nerve, it will supply only one muscle in the hand, that is the palmaris brevis. Rest 14 muscles, they will be supplied by the deep branch of the ulnar nerve. So although the ulnar nerve, it is supplying the 15 muscles of the hand which are responsible for the fine and the skilled movements of the hand. So this nerve, it is named also as the musician's nerve. But if we look functionally, functionally the median nerve, it will be more important for the movements of the hand, as the thumb, it is supposed to be equivalent to the half of the hand, as most of the gripping and the grasping movements of the hand, they are possible only with the help of the thumb. So if the movements of the thumb are lost, no gripping or grasping movement or pinching movement can be done. So disability which occurs due to the injury to the median nerve, it will be more as compared to the injuries to the ulnar nerve, which is although supplying 15 muscle, but the more important muscles of the thumb, they are supplied by the median nerve. And out of the four muscles of the thumb, the three we have studied, they are supplied by the median nerve, and only one muscle of the thumb, that is the adductor pollicis muscle, it will be supplied by the ulnar nerve. So this is an important fact which we must remember during the applied or injuries to the various nerves in the responsible for the paralysis of the muscles of the hand. So 15 muscles, they will be supplied by ulnar, and 5 muscles, they will be supplied by median nerve. And functionally the disability, it is more because of injuries to the median nerve, as median nerve injury, it will cause the paralysis of the muscles of the thumb. Now we will study the origin and insertion of all the muscles one by one. First, about the muscles of the thinner group. Regarding the origin and insertion of thinner and the hypothinner muscles, certain common things which we must remember are that both the thinner and hypothinner muscles, they take origin from the flexor retinaculum and from the adjoining carpal bones. That means the thinner muscles which are lateral, they will take origin from the lateral most carpal bones, that is in the proximal row, the scaphoid, and in the distal row from the trapezium bone. While the hypothinner muscles, they will take attachment to the carpal bones which are medially placed, that is in the proximal row to the pisiform, and in the distal row they are attached to the hamate bone. First we will study about the attachment of the thinner muscles. In the thinner muscle group, we have the muscles that are the abductor pollicis brevis, flexor pollicis brevis, opponens pollicis, and adductor pollicis. Out of these four muscles, the upper three muscles, they will be placed laterally, while the adductor pollicis, it is present medial to the thumb. First, about the attachment of the abductor pollicis brevis. One attachment of all these muscles, it will be to the flexor retinaculum, which is attached to the lateral most, that is the scaphoid and trapezium, and the medial most carpal bones, that is the pisiform and the hook of the hamate bone. Now, so one attachment, it will be to the flexor retinaculum, and other attachment of the abductor pollicis brevis, it will be to the tubercle of the scaphoid bone, which is laterally placed. So from here, I have drawn the origin of the abductor pollicis brevis from the scaphoid bone. From here, the muscle, it will pass laterally and it will get attached at its distal end to the proximal phalanx of the thumb, and it will be attached to the radial side of the base of the proximal phalanx of the thumb. So this is the first muscle I have drawn, that is the abductor pollicis brevis, attached to the flexor retinaculum and to the scaphoid bone, and it is inserted onto the radial side of the base of proximal phalanx. Now the second muscle in this group, it is the flexor pollicis brevis. I am drawing it with the green color just to differentiate from the abductor pollicis brevis. The flexor pollicis brevis will be also attached to the flexor retinaculum, and it will be attached to the trapezium, that is the lateralmost carpal bone in the distal row, and it will also get inserted onto the lateral side of the base of the proximal phalanx. So this is the flexor pollicis brevis, which is placed medial to the abductor pollicis brevis. So both the muscles, they are attached to the carpal bones and flexor retinaculum, and both are inserted onto the lateral side of the base of proximal phalanx. The third muscle in this group, that is the apponens pollicis, it can be seen only when we reflect the two muscles, abductor and the flexor, as it is attached to the shaft of the first metacarpal. So I am drawing it separately here, the first metacarpal and the trapezium bone. Now the apponens pollicis muscle, it will be attached to the tubercle of the trapezium bone, and it will be inserted onto the shaft of the first metacarpal bone. So it is attached to the lateral side of the palmar surface of the shaft of the first metacarpal. So this is the apponens pollicis, which is placed deep to the abductor and the flexor pollicis brevis. So we have drawn the three lateral muscles of the thumb, abductor, flexor pollicis, and the apponens pollicis. Now the fourth muscle, that is the adductor pollicis, which is medially placed. It is having two heads of origin. One is the transverse and another is the oblique head. Now I am drawing it with the red color. First, the transverse head of the adductor pollicis. The transverse head of the adductor pollicis, it will take origin from the shaft of the third metacarpal bone. So this is the transverse head. The oblique head of the adductor pollicis, it will take origin from the base of the second and the third metacarpal bone, and also it will take attachment up to this carpal bone, that is the capitate bone. From here, the both the heads, they will be now, they will get fused and they will be attached to the medial side of the base of the proximal phalanx of the thumb. So the adductor pollicis muscle, it is having a transverse head and an oblique head, and both the heads, they get fused and they are attached to the medial side of the base of proximal phalanx. So we have four muscles in the thinner group, out of which three muscles, the abductor, flexor, and apponens pollicis, they are present on the lateral side, and these lateral muscles, they will be supplied by the median nerve, while the one muscle, which is the adductor pollicis, and it is present on the medial side and is attached to the medial side of the proximal phalanx, it will be supplied by the ulnar nerve. So this fact must be always remembered, that the out of four muscles in the thumb, The three lateral muscles, they are supplied by median nerve, and only muscle of the thumb which is supplied by the deep branch of ulnar nerve, it is the adductor pollicis muscle.
Movements which are done by these muscles, they can be demonstrated by this small video. Movements in the thumb, they will take place at the metacarpophalangeal joint and the carpometacarpal joint. And the first carpometacarpal joint, it is a saddle variety of the joint. So all type of movements they are possible, that are the flexion, extension, abduction, adduction, circumduction, and also a movement of apposition, it is possible in the thumb. Now the movements of which are taking place on the thumb, they are different from the movement at the other metacarpals. As the first metacarpal bone, it is lying at right angles to other metacarpals. So abduction and adduction at the first carpometacarpal joint, it will be taking place at right angles to the plane of the palm. So this anterior movement, it is named as the abduction of the thumb, while the posterior movement, when the first metacarpal come in line with other metacarpals, this is the adduction movement. So abduction and adduction, they are taking place at right angles to the plane of the palm, while flexion and extension in the thumb, they are, so this medial movement, this is the flexion, and the lateral movement, this is the extension movement. So flexion and extension, they will take place parallel to the plane of the palm. Another special movement which is possible in the thumb is the movement of apposition. In the movement of apposition, the distal portion of the thumb or pulp of the thumb, it can touch the pulp of the other fingers. So the counting movements, these are the movement of apposition. So these are the various movements which are possible in the thumb: the flexion, extension, abduction, adduction, and the movement of apposition. And another movement which is a combination of all the movements, this is the circumduction movement. The flexion movement, it will be done by the muscle flexor pollicis brevis along with flexor pollicis longus, while extension movement will be done by the extensor muscles, that are the extensor pollicis longus muscle. The abduction movement, it will be done by the abductor pollicis brevis and abductor pollicis longus, while this movement of adduction, it will be done by the adductor pollicis muscle. Now, if an injury occurs to the median nerve, that will cause paralysis of this abductor pollicis brevis muscle and the opponent's muscles. In that case, the movements which will be lost will be the abduction movement, and now in injuries to the median nerve, the thumb will lie in adducted position, that is the first metacarpal will lie in line with other metacarpal, and this type of hand, this is named as the ape-like thumb deformity in the median nerve injuries, which is due to the injury to the median nerve and paralysis of the abductor muscles. And to test the muscles of the thumb or the median nerve, we can do a pen test for the abductor muscles, in which we place a pen in front of the palm and we ask the patient to touch this pen with the thumb, and if abductors they are working, he can touch this pen. So this test will test the median nerve or the abductor muscles.
Now we will study about the hypothenar muscles. The four muscles in this group, they are the abductor digiti minimi, flexor digiti minimi brevis, opponens digiti minimi, and the palmaris brevis muscle. First, about the attachments of the abductor digiti minimi. This muscle, it will take origin from the flexor retinaculum and from the medial most carpal bone, that is the pisiform bone. So here we can see this bone, this is the pisiform bone. Now origin is from the pisiform bone and the flexor retinaculum, and insertion of the abductor digiti minimi, it is on to the base of the proximal phalanx of the little finger, and attachment is onto the medial side of the base. So this is the first muscle of the hypothenar group. This is the abductor digiti minimi. Now the second muscle in this group, this is named as the flexor digiti minimi brevis. It will take origin from the flexor retinaculum and from the hook of the hamate bone. So here we can see this is the hook of the hamate bone, and from here the second muscle flexor digiti minimi brevis, it will take origin, and this will be also attached to the base of the proximal phalanx on its medial side. So this is the second muscle of the group, that is the flexor digiti minimi brevis. The third muscle in this group, it is the apponens digiti minimi. This muscle, it will also take origin from the hook of the hamate bone, and the distal attachment of the muscle, it will be on to the shaft of the fifth metacarpal bone on its ulnar side. So just like the apponens pollicis, which is attached to the shaft of first metacarpal, the apponens digiti minimi, it will be attached to the shaft of the fifth metacarpal bone. So these are the three muscles on which will form the hypothenar eminence. So these three muscles, they are the abductor digiti minimi, first from the pisiform bone, and this is the medial most muscle. The second is the flexor digiti minimi brevis, and the third muscle, it is the apponens digiti minimi in this group, which is attached to the shaft of the fifth metacarpal bone on the ulnar side. Now, fourth muscle of this group, it is the palmaris brevis, which we can see with the help of this second diagram here. The palmaris brevis muscle, it takes origin from the flexor retinaculum, and also it takes attachment from the ulnar side of the palmar aponeurosis. So here this is the palmar aponeurosis. And we can see this red colored muscle, the palmaris brevis muscle. So origin is from flexor retinaculum and palmar aponeurosis, and insertion of the muscle is onto the skin on the ulnar side of the palm. The action of the palmaris brevis muscle is that it will wrinkle the skin on the medial side or the ulnar side of the palm, and it will also deepen the hollow of the palm. So these are the four muscles of the hypothenar group, and out of these four muscles, the first three muscles, the abductor, flexor and apponens digiti minimi, they will be supplied by the deep branch of the ulnar nerve, while the palmaris brevis muscle, it will be supplied by the superficial branch of the ulnar nerve. The action of the abductor digiti minimi will be according to its name. It will help in the abduction of the fifth metacarpal, while the flexor digiti minimi, it will help in the flexion at the fifth metacarpophalangeal joint, while the apponens digiti minimi, it will draw the fifth metacarpal bone forward, and it will bring this digit in opposition with the thumb. So these are the attachments and the actions of the hypothenar muscles, which are supplied by the deep branch of the ulnar nerve, except for the palmaris brevis, which is supplied by the superficial branch of the ulnar nerve. Now we will study about the central group of the muscles. The central group of muscles, they are present between the thenar and the hypothenar muscles. This group, it includes the interossei and the lumbrical muscles of the hand. First, we are studying the lumbrical muscles. The word lumbrical, it means worm-like. So these muscles, they appear to be small, thin and worm-like, so the name lumbrical. The origin of lumbrical muscles, it is from the tendon of the flexor digitorum profundus muscle. So here in this diagram, we can see the long flexor of the forearm. This is the flexor digitorum profundus. And as the tendon of flexor digitorum profundus, it reaches towards the palm, it divides into four tendons. And from the radial side of these four tendons arises the small, thin worm-like muscles, which are named as the lumbrical muscles. So here we can see the four lumbrical muscles from the tendon of the flexor digitorum profundus muscle along flexor of the forearm. Now if we take a close look at the origin of these muscles, we can see that there are total four lumbricals, and each lumbrical it takes origin from the radial side of the tendon of flexor digitorum profundus muscle. And we can also see by this diagram that the first and the second lumbrical, they are unipinnate in nature, while the third and the fourth lumbrical, which are arising from adjacent side of the tendons of flexor digitorum profundus, they are bipinnate in nature. So there are total four lumbricals taking origin from the radial side of the flexor digitorum profundus tendon, and first and second lumbrical they are unipinnate, while third and fourth lumbricals they are bipinnate in nature. Now regarding the nerve supply of these muscles, since the flexor digitorum profundus muscle it is having a dual nerve supply, that its lateral half it will receive its nerve supply from the anterior introitious branch of the median nerve, while its medial half will receive nerve supply from the ulnar nerve. So corresponding to these two nerves, the lumbrical muscles, that is the first and the second lumbricals, which are the lateral lumbricals, they receive their nerve supply from the median nerve, while the third and fourth lumbricals, they receive their nerve supply from the ulnar nerve corresponding to the nerve supply of the flexor digitorum profundus. So total four lumbricals, the lateral two lumbricals, they receive nerve supply from the median nerve, while the medial two lumbricals, they receive their nerve supply from the ulnar nerve. Now about the insertion of these lumbrical muscles. The lumbrical muscles, they are inserted onto the dorsal digital expansion. The dorsal digital expansion, it is formed by the tendons of the extensor digitorum muscle. So in this diagram, we can see the dorsal surface of the palm, and on the dorsal surface of the palm, we can see the four tendons of extensor digitorum muscle. As they reach near the base of the proximal phalanx, they expand into a thin triangular sheet that is named as the dorsal digital expansion. And on the margins of this sheet, there lies the insertion of interossei and the lumbrical muscles. The insertions of the lumbrical muscles, they can be more clearly seen by this diagram. Here we can see the origin of the lumbrical muscles from the flexor digitorum profundus tendon, and we can also see that the tendons of thin tendons of the lumbrical muscles, they get inserted onto the dorsal side of each digit on the dorsal digital expansion. So origin of the lumbricals, it is from the radial side of tendons of flexor digitorum profundus muscle, and insertion is onto the dorsal digital expansion of the extensor digitorum tendons. So that is about the origin and the insertion of the lumbrical muscles, and about the nerve supply, the medial two receiving this nerve supply from the ulnar nerve, and lateral two receiving their nerve supply from the median nerve. Now regarding the action of these lumbrical muscles, as we can see by these diagrams that the lumbrical muscles, they first cross the metacarpophalangeal joint, and by the extensor digitorum expansion they reach up to the interphalangeal joint. So the lumbrical muscles, they will have action both at the metacarpophalangeal joints and at the interphalangeal joints. So their action on the metacarpophalangeal joints, since they are lying anterior to the metacarpophalangeal joint, they will cause flexion at the metacarpophalangeal joint, and they are lying posterior to the interphalangeal joint, so they will cause extension at the interphalangeal joint. So action of lumbrical muscles along with interossei, it is to cause the flexion at metacarpophalangeal and extension at the interphalangeal joint. Now this position, by the flexion at metacarpophalangeal and extension at interphalangeal joint. This is responsible for the working position of the hand. So these small muscles that are the lumbricals and the interossei, they are responsible for the normal working position of the hand. So this is about the action of the lumbrical muscles which are responsible for the action both at the metacarpophalangeal and the interphalangeal joint, causing the flexion at metacarpophalangeal and extension at interphalangeal joint. Now, if an injury occurs to ulnar or median nerve, then there can occur paralysis of the lumbrical muscles. And during the paralysis of the lumbrical muscles, now the position of the hand or deformity, it is described as the claw hand. In the claw hand, since the lumbrical muscles they have been paralyzed now, so there will be hyperextension at the metacarpophalangeal joint, and there will be a flexion at the interphalangeal joint, just reverse of the normal working position of the hand. And the claw hand can be either due to the ulnar nerve injury or it can be due to median nerve injury. Since the medial two lumbricals, they are receiving their nerve supply from the ulnar nerve. So if the ulnar nerve it is injured, it will result in paralysis of the medial two lumbricals and forming involving the ring finger and the little finger and forming the ulnar claw hand. But if the median nerve it is involved, it will result in paralysis of the lateral two lumbricals involving the index finger and the middle finger. And this will result in the median claw hand. But if both the ulnar and the median nerve they are involved, there will be a complete claw hand. And by the word claw hand, we mean the position of the hand or deformity of the hand where there is hyperextension at metacarpophalangeal joint and flexion at the interphalangeal joint. So this is about the small worm-like muscles of the hand that are the lumbrical muscles which are taking origin from the tendons of the flexor digitorum profundus muscle and they are inserted onto the dorsal digital expansion. Now, the second group of muscles in the central group, they are the interossei muscles. In the interossei muscles, we have the two group of muscles that are the palmar and the dorsal interossei. The palmar interossei, they are attached along the palmar surface of the metacarpal bones, while the dorsal interossei, they will be attached towards the dorsal surface of the metacarpal bones. And as the name is suggesting, interossei that is present between the bones. So the interossei muscles, whether palmar and dorsal, they are present between the metacarpal bones. Now, the regarding the nature of these muscles, the palmar interossei, they are unipinnate type of muscles as we see in the first diagram, while the dorsal interossei, we can see all of them, they are bipinnate in nature, taking origin from adjacent surface of the metacarpal bones. So origin of the palmar and the dorsal interossei, it is from the palmar and the dorsal surface of the metacarpal bones respectively. And the palmar interossei, they are unipinnate, while dorsal ones, they are bipinnate in nature. And we have four palmar and four dorsal interossei. Now the insertion of the palmar and the dorsal interossei is just similar to the lumbrical muscles as we see in this diagram, where we can see the dorsal digital expansions of the index, middle, ring and the little finger. Now, in all the dorsal digital expansions, we can see the insertions of the palmar and the dorsal interossei and also the lumbrical muscles. So, insertions of the palmar and the dorsal interossei, they are onto the dorsal digital expansions. And in addition, the palmar interossei, they will be attached to the base of the proximal phalanx. So this is about the origin and the insertions of the palmar and the dorsal interossei, and all the palmar and the dorsal interossei, they are supplied by the deep branch of the ulnar nerve. Now, regarding the action of the palmar and the dorsal interosseous, we can look at this small video where we have shown the actions of these muscles.
The interosseous muscle, they will do either adduction or abduction at the metacarpophalangeal joints. The adduction and abduction at the metacarpophalangeal joints, they are described in reference to an axis which is passing through the middle finger. So the adduction movement, it will be, that is the, if a finger moves towards the middle finger, this will be named as the adduction movement. So for example, when we move this index finger towards the middle finger, this is the movement of adduction, and for the ring finger this is the adduction movement, and for the little finger this is the adduction movement. All these adduction movement at the metacarpophalangeal joint, they will be done by the palmar interosseous muscle, while the abduction movement means any movement away from the middle finger, this will be the abduction movement. So for the index finger, this is the abduction movement, and for the ring finger, this is the abduction. For the little finger, this is the abduction movement. Now in the middle finger, the movement towards the any direction towards the ulnar or the radial side, this is described as the abduction movement, and all these abduction movements, they will be done by the dorsal interosseous muscles. So the palmar interosseous, they are doing movements towards the middle finger, that is the adduction movement, while the dorsal interosseous, they are doing the movement away from the middle finger, that is the abduction movement, and movement of the middle finger towards any side, it is described as the abduction movement.
Now, the students they find difficulty in drawing these palmar and the dorsal interosseous. It is very simple to draw these palmar and dorsal interosseous if we just remember their actions. That is the adduction by palmar interosseous, that is the pad, and the abduction by the dorsal interosseous, that is the dab. Now, how to draw these palmar and the dorsal interosseous? Now, I am drawing this. This is the middle finger, index finger, and the thumb. So, ring finger and the little finger. Now, as we know that the adduction movement is towards the middle finger, so any muscle which is present on the ulnar side of the thumb, it will cause the movement of the thumb towards the middle finger. So, for the index finger, if we draw a muscle towards this side, we can easily assume that its contraction will pull the finger towards the middle finger. For the middle finger, we don't have any palmar interosseous because movement of middle finger to any side, it is named as the abduction. There is no adduction movement at this middle finger. Now for the ring finger, if we have to do the movements towards the middle finger, we should have a muscle on this direction and its contraction will pull it towards the middle finger. And similar to the for the little finger, here we can draw on the radial side of the metacarpal bone the palmar interosseous and its contraction will pull it towards the middle finger. So now we can compare this figure to the original figure where there we can see the palmar interosseous. So it is easy to draw the palmar interosseous just by remembering its action. And now one must remember that the first palmar interosseous, it is either vestigial or sometimes absent because for the thumb we have the adductor pollicis muscle also. So that will cause the adduction at the thumb. So rest palmar interosseous we can see for the second, fourth and the fifth metacarpals. So that is how we can draw the palmar interosseous. Similarly, if we want to draw the dorsal interosseous, here this is the middle finger, the thumb, index, ring and the little finger. Now as we know that the movement away from the middle finger, it will be named as the abduction. So to move this index finger away from the middle finger, we should have a muscle on this side and it will pull the the index finger away from the middle finger. And since it is a bipinnate muscle, so I am drawing it from the first and the second metacarpal. Now for the middle finger, since its movement towards any direction, it is abduction. So this middle finger will have the dorsal interosseae attached to it on both the sides. So first dorsal interosseae, second and third dorsal interosseae we have drawn. Now for the ring finger, to move it away from the middle finger, we should always have a interosseae which should be on the ulnar side, and it contraction of this interosseae will pull the ring finger away from the middle finger. Now for the little finger, we have a separate abductor, that is the abductor digiti minimi muscle. So we don't need any dorsal interosseae for the little finger. So this is how we can draw the dorsal and the palmar interosseae. And action of the palmar and dorsal interosseae, we always should remember that palmar they are adductors while dorsal they are abductors. And movement of middle finger to any direction, it is named as the abduction movement. Now, in addition to the adduction and abduction, the interosseae muscles, they are also helping the lumbrical muscles for doing the flexion at the metacarpophalangeal joint and extension at the interphalangeal joint. Now, we can test the palmar and dorsal interosseae by simple test. First about the palmar interosseae. The palmar interosseae, they can be tested by a simple card test in which we put a paper or a card in between the two fingers and we ask the patient to hold this card or the paper. Now, if the adductor action of the interosseae it is lost due to injury to the ulnar nerve, the patient will not be able to hold the card or paper between the fingers. So this is the test for the palmar interosseae. Now, if we have to check the dorsal interosseae, we can do the testing by first making the patient's palm flat on the table, and then we ask the patient to move middle finger to any direction. Movement of the middle finger to either direction, this is the abduction and it is done by the dorsal interosseae. So this is the test for the dorsal interosseae, or we can do the resisted abduction, that is when we ask the patient to abduct any of the finger, we can also check the dorsal interosseae muscles. So this is about the palmar and the dorsal interosseae muscles, which take origin from the metacarpal bones and they are inserted onto the dorsal digital expansions. And both the palmar and the dorsal interosseae, they are supplied by the deep branch of the ulnar nerve. So this is about the intrinsic muscles of the hand, which are divided into three groups: thinner, hypothinner, and the central group.